They sold the house I grew up in right after I paid off their $280,000 debt. But what they didn't know is that I secretly transferred the deed into my name, and their betrayal turned into my revenge. They put the house on the market, the place I called home, right after I cleared every penny of their $280,000 debt. I'm Kelsey Monroe, and wherever you might be watching from, drop a comment and tell me, have you ever been exploited by your own family? Used like a human ATM? It was a Wednesday evening. The sun was beginning to disappear behind the evergreen trees that surrounded our front porch. I had just finished my second shift at the hospital, drained but satisfied. The previous night, my mother had wept in my embrace, saying I'd rescued our family. My father, who rarely showed affection during my childhood, held me in the strongest hug. "You're our savior," he murmured. I trusted them completely. I thought, at last. Finally, I had value. I stepped from my vehicle still wearing the smile from the night before. But something felt off. The window treatments had vanished. The driveway stood empty. The garden beds Mom always tended were destroyed. I ran to the entrance. The key turned, but the home was stripped bare. Sitting on the wooden floor was a white letter bearing my name written in hasty handwriting. "Thanks for repairing our credit, sucker. We relocated to Florida with your brother. Don't contact us." No signature, no guilt, just those words. I let the letter fall, collapsed to the floor, then pulled myself outside to the front yard like a spirit. Neighbors walked by and greeted me as if nothing had changed. I felt like screaming.
I wanted to destroy something.
Instead, I remained there quietly, absorbing the reality. But then I grinned because my parents were unaware of one crucial detail. When I settled the mortgage the previous week, I had the ownership papers transferred into my name. Secretly, carefully. Every form signed, notarized, recorded, making their attempted sale completely illegal. And within 24 hours, they would discover what happens when you betray the wrong child. Let's just say they would regret every cent I ever provided them. I didn't weep. I didn't yell. I simply remained there watching the evening light spread across my legs like crimson while the note crumpled in my grip. They actually went through with it. Treated me like a bank account, then discarded me like unwanted mail. But what they were oblivious to is that while they were busy plotting, I was staying alert. For the first time ever, I'd stopped believing their promises and started examining the details. Let me explain how this all began. 6 months earlier, I was sleeping in my vehicle after a 12-hour workday. I'd been crashing with a friend after my boyfriend threw me out, but I refused to overstay my welcome. That evening, I received a call from my mother. She was weeping. "Kelsey, we're about to lose our home. Your father made some terrible investments. We owe $280,000. That house was my only stability. The same porch where I celebrated my 5th birthday. The steps I used to creep down every Christmas morning. Losing it felt like losing part of myself." I questioned them. "What about the inheritance from Grandpa?" "Oh, honey," Mom whimpered. "We spent it helping your brother launch his company. You understand how challenging things have been for him. Naturally, Evan, the favored son. He wrecks every vehicle, destroys every opportunity, betrays every girlfriend, yet somehow he's always the one they shield. Still, I couldn't stand watching my childhood residence get foreclosed. So, I emptied my accounts, maxed my credit lines, even secured a personal loan. They were stunned when I arrived with a folder filled with certified checks. Dad fell silent. Mom collapsed to her knees. "You're a blessing," she whispered. They prepared dinner, captured photos, shared posts like I was a returning hero. And me, I was just grateful to be acknowledged. That's what truly hurts. I wasn't just robbed of money. I was robbed of the fantasy that they cared for me equally. But now that fantasy was shattered, and I was finished being their backup plan, because while they were packing for Florida, I was completing the ownership transfer. They didn't even realize the documents I had them sign for the refinancing. And now, as I stood on my vacant front yard, the only emotion I experienced was control. They believed they had taken everything from me. But what they actually did was authorize me to sever ties completely. The following morning, I went to the title office wearing a black sweatshirt and dark glasses. I didn't want recognition, not from embarrassment, but because I wanted the shock to strike like a thunderbolt. Miss Monroe, the employee beamed, pushing the folder across the desk. Everything's finalized. The transaction your parents tried is invalid. The property remains legally yours. I nodded once, composed externally. Internally, I was burning. The purchasers had already transferred funds to my parents' shared account. But since the title was never theirs, they had committed fraud, a serious crime. I didn't want them imprisoned. Not immediately. Prison would be too kind. I wanted them trapped, without shelter, disgraced. I exited the office into the warm breeze. Checked my device. 4 unanswered calls from a Florida number. I ignored them. Let them worry. That evening, I contacted the local authorities and reported an unauthorized sale attempt on property under my ownership. I sent the buyer's representative all my paperwork. Within 2 hours, the transaction was halted. The moving vehicles turned back, but Mom and Dad had already departed. They imagined they were enjoying cocktails in Boca Raton by then. Instead, they were about to learn their fantasy home was non-existent, that their bank account was being frozen in a legal hold, and their golden child. Yeah. Evan was about to discover how vindictive his own spouse could become when her dreams got destroyed alongside a broke, unemployed mama's boy. I waited. I didn't message, didn't call, didn't clarify. I just shared one post on my social media. If you ever feel exploited, don't get mad, get clever, and always check the ownership papers. Then I disabled my alerts. Let them question. Let them panic. That night, I sat in the vacant living space alone and chuckled because I was no longer the girl who pleaded for affection. I was the woman who possessed the house. They were intruders in a world they thought they controlled. The first message arrived at 2:17 a.m. Where are you? Why is the bank claiming the house isn't ours? Call immediately. Then 2 missed calls. Then 1 from Evan. Then 1 from a Florida number with no identification. I didn't respond. I just lay in bed, lights extinguished, phone face down, grinning in the darkness. Let them suffer in bewilderment. By dawn, they were falling apart. Evan finally left a voicemail. His voice was a fragile mixture of fury and fear. You need to resolve this, Kelsey. You've destroyed everything. Mom's having heart issues. Dad's shouting at everyone. You think this is amusing? You owe thousands. You have 24 hours before we pursue legal action. Legal action? On a property I owned, purchased with my funds. After being deceived with embraces and false tears. I prepared breakfast and coffee while replaying the message on speaker. Loud just for the resonance. Then I sent one group message to all 3. Per Florida law, attempting to sell property you don't own constitutes fraud. I have complete documentation. The sale is canceled. The money will be returned to the buyers, and the house remains mine. But since you departed so hastily, I assumed you wouldn't object to me changing the locks. Silence. 3 hours elapsed. Then another voicemail, this time from Mom. She was crying again, but it sounded different now. This wasn't a please rescue us cry. This was the sound of arrogance crumbling. Sweetheart, we made an error. We were just trying to start fresh. We didn't think you'd go this far. Your father didn't mean what he wrote in that note. He panicked. Can we discuss this? You don't negotiate with someone who stabbed you while embracing you. You walk away while they suffer from their own weapon. Instead, I contacted the Homeowners Association and reported unauthorized listing activity. I updated the municipal records to mark the property as disputed in case they attempted anything else. I didn't seek revenge. I wanted accountability. So, I began planning the next phase. Not from hatred, but from cold, clear judgment. Because when your own family weaponizes your affection, you stop being their child and become their consequence. I knew Evan would break first. He always does. Pressure affects him like a spark to kindling. Fast, loud, and worthless. He called from a block number. I answered silently. Kelsey. His voice was quiet, defeated. Claire left me. She took the children. Said she can't be married to a financially irresponsible child. She discovered the note Dad wrote you. The one that said, "Thanks for fixing our credit, sucker." He sniffed, then laughed bitterly. She called me a leech. I remained silent. I let him continue. Mom and Dad are sleeping on an air mattress in Uncle Brian's basement. He won't allow them to stay beyond next week. They're suggesting we should return and try to reconcile. They want to move back into the house. I finally responded. There is no we, Evan. You made that obvious the day you watched me empty my account and didn't even express gratitude. Silence. They're your parents, Kels. You really going to abandon them on the streets? I smiled so wide it ached. Interesting. That's precisely what they did to me. No more pretending. I wasn't their cash cow anymore. I was the reckoning. Over the following days, I began a transformation. New locks, new furnishings, new existence. I repainted the corridor that still displayed my childhood height measurements penciled on the molding. Not because I despised my past, but because I was finally done allowing it to torment me. Then I received a call from an attorney. Their attorney. He inquired if I'd consider friendly restitution, a family-focused solution. I posed one question. Did they inform you they made me homeless 5 years ago, when I needed somewhere to stay? Said Evan required his privacy more than I needed shelter. He hesitated. No, Ms. Monroe. They didn't mention that. I disconnected. I didn't need justice from a courtroom. I had something superior. Authority. Serenity. They could chase paperwork all they wished, but the foundation was mine. The mortgage in my name and their phony Florida dream turned to ash in their grasp. I didn't burn bridges. I simply stopped constructing ones where they only walked over me. The day the moving truck arrived at my house, not theirs, I stood in the driveway barefoot in yoga pants and a hoodie, drinking iced coffee like it was a sacred ceremony. The neighbors waved. Some even approached to ask if my parents were returning. I smiled. No, just clearing out the past, creating space for a future that actually belongs to me. Inside, I opened the hallway closet, discovered Mom's old wedding photos, Evan's high school awards, Dad's dusty container of important papers, insurance he never maintained, tax documents he never completed. I boxed everything, labeled it Return to Sender, sealed it shut. Then I delivered it to Uncle Brian's. When he answered the door,